Good morning YouTube, welcome back to another video. I want to start this video by thanking everyone who has subscribed over the past couple of days. It's been absolutely crazy. I've gone from like 140 subscribers to over 600 at the moment. So a massive thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I think it's because my last video was specifically about cabin crew and the job itself, whereas a lot of my previous videos have been a bit of a vlog about what I get up to en route. And I'm going to carry on doing that, but I'm going to try and do a few more specific videos based on cabin crew, starting with today's video, which is going to be about the recruitment process and about the training program. I've had a lot of comments on my last video with specific questions to other topics, so I'm going to go through those in my next few videos that will come up, but for now I'm going to focus on this topic. As long as you have a visa to work in the United Kingdom, then I think pretty much anyone can apply for the role. There is a few requirements such as the height, so you have to be between 5'2" and 6'1", and they also, when you apply, they give you a lot of criteria like I'm willing to live within 2 hours of the airport, or I can be at the airport within 2 hours, and stuff like that. So if you head onto the website and click on the Mixed Fleet Cabin Crew Heathrow application, then you'll see all the criteria, and it's up to you to see if you meet those criteria. After you've gone through that, and I think there's 10 questions where they'll play you a little video and you have to select the option from the question that they ask you, and it just tells you whether you're suitable to the job and whether you're the right kind of person that would suit the cabin crew role. Once you've completed those questions, you'll need to create an account and you will be sent a link to complete a questionnaire. Now, I applied for the role about 2 years ago, but I've got a friend called Vasi. I'll leave his links in the description below, and he's told me what he had to do more recently in the past 6 months when he first did the application. There are 2 tests that you will have to fill out. The first one is a personality test and the second one is a timed maths test. The personality test will go through some questions such as what would you do in this scenario, and I think the maths test will be basic maths, nothing too challenging, stuff to do with currencies and times, just to make sure that you're switched on and you are at least a little bit intelligent. Other than that, I don't think you need too many qualifications for the role. I think you need about 5 GCSEs at C grade, and when you get invited to the assessment day, you'll have to bring proof of that. If you are successful with the personality test and the maths test, then you will be given an invitation to an assessment day. I think once you finish the test, it will take about a week maybe to be told whether you are successful or not, and then you'll be asked to book a time that suits you for the assessment day. When I did it, there was just one group that did the assessment day and it lasted the whole day, but Vasi's told me that more recently they're splitting it up to a morning and an afternoon session. Once you arrive, you will need to give your passport and some forms of ID, like where you live, just to prove that you are able to work in the UK. And then the first thing they're going to ask you to do is a reach test, and they will measure you to see if you do comply with the height. I remember when I went for my assessment day, the first thing I did was the reach test, and I saw a girl get sent home. If you are on the border, I would suggest you do some stretches in the morning and try and get that flexibility up. Now, there are 2 scenarios that you'll be put through on the assessment day. The first one is a one-on-one where you'll be given a card that you have 2 minutes to look at, and it's got a scenario on it. The examiner will leave the room, you can go through it yourself and process it all yourself. Then they'll come back in and you'll be asked to read the card to them. I think this is just to check that you can read. You can do the onboard announcements, I'm not sure, but they ask you to read it out loud. And then after that, they will take the card away from you, and the examiner will ask you questions and put you in a tricky situation, and you're going to have to resolve that situation. For me, I think I was the hotel receptionist, and I had a customer who had arrived early in the morning before their check-in time, and they wanted to check into their room early, and then they wanted to take a shower, and I had to kind of manage the situation, tell them that their room wasn't ready, but they could go down to the health club and they could use the showers down there if they wanted to get ready. There'll be a lot of information on there. It might give you their priority if they've got a status at the hotel chain or the airline if it's an airline example, and you'll just have to manage that conflict. The second situation is a role play. You'll be put into a room with about 5 people and a round table, and there'll be examiners sat around, 1 for each person, so they'll be watching you closely, and they will give you some cards that has another scenario on it. I think for me it was a new airport terminal being built, and there's lots of examples of how you can spend the money. Now, there's no right or wrong answer, but they're just looking for how you communicate with each other, what examples or ideas you bring to the table. And The key is to not overpower everyone, to not be too bossy, but to not be too quiet. You know, you've got to find that balance. I think they give you about 15 minutes to talk about it between yourselves, and then with about 5 minutes to go, they'll throw another card on the table, which will put a spanner in the works, and you need to kind of decide between you how you're going to get around this new information that's been introduced. After that, you'll be waiting around for the results to come out, and they'll split you off into 2 groups. One group will be sent home and the other group will get through. Generally, you can tell if you're in the room that's got the sandwiches in the corner, it means you've been successful and they will feed you for the remainder of the day. If you're successful, then it means you will then get an interview, so there'll be 2 people, maybe or 3 people interviewing you, and they'll ask you a lot of competency-based questions like, give me an example of when you've done this, and you'll just need to, you know, be yourself, use your personality, be confident, and just try and think of a lot of examples for previous jobs or in school or college or whatever you've done in previous to this, and think of lots of different examples from different situations of how you've managed those situations and how you've used your personality or your skills to your best ability. And that's it, that is the recruitment process. There's not really much to it. All I can say is a lot of people apply to this job, and a lot of people get it and a lot of people won't. You just need to be yourself on the day, and I think British Airways are looking for a good personality because they say their hard product isn't great, you know, their aircraft aren't as amazing as Emirates, for example, but their cabin crew are what really stand out with the customers. So they're looking for someone who's got a good personality, who can manage conflict well, and who can interact with customers and really make their experience as good as possible. I think it will be about a week before you find out if you've been successful, and after that it will be the back check process. This is the most painful process you'll ever go through in your life. It is so frustrating, and some people are left waiting for about a year before they get their start date, which is absolutely shocking. For me, I think I applied in June or May and I was successful, and then I was given a start date in October, but the day before my start date I was told, oh no, your references aren't finished, and my new start date was in December. This happens for a lot of people, so my advice would be, do not book accommodation or anything like that until you are 100% sure that you have got your start date and that your references are finalised. The references are going to look at the last 5 years of your life, so whatever you've been up to, whether that's school, university, jobs, even if you've not been doing anything, any period I think of 2 weeks or more where you've been unemployed, you will need a reference for what you've been doing during that period of time. And of course, the longer it goes on, the longer you need to then provide more references for. So for example, when I was given my start date in October, but then it got pushed back to December, I then needed to give more references of what I've been up to from October to December, and it's just a bit of a nightmare. My best piece of advice would be, try and contact those people that British Airways are going to contact, to brief them, like, by the way, you're gonna get an email, you're gonna get a phone call from British Airways asking for a reference. Can you please reply as soon as possible? British Airways outsource this to another company, so it's not their fault, but I do think they need to get on top of it. Once you've got your start date and you're good to go, you'll be ready for training. Now again, the training process has changed from when I did it to when Vasi did it, so I'm going to tell you what Vasi has told me, but a lot of it is the same. For the first week, you won't actually be employed by British Airways, you won't be going to British Airways, you'll be going to a hotel, I think, and you'll be doing a course by people called Sky People. This is to get your aircraft attestation, which is essentially a bit like a driving license for driving a car. You need an attestation to be able to work on an aircraft. Now I've heard that if you worked for an airline previously and you've already got the attestation, you might be able to skip this process. Getting your attestation will be a lot of classroom based work and watching a lot of videos. You'll be doing some basic AvMed, which is Aviation Medical. You'll be doing a bit on survival for emergency situations, and there'll be a bit of CRM of how you work with flight crew. So for this, they will go through some examples of disasters, like the British Airways Vegas one, or there's a plane that was coming into London, Birmingham, I think, and of the 2 engines, one was faulty, might have been on fire, I think, and one was fine. And the cabin crew told the flight crew the wrong engine and they shut the wrong engine off. So it's just stuff like that, how you work with the flight crew, and that gets you your attestation. Once you finish that, you'll then have about 3 to 4 weeks with British Airways, and the first week we'll be doing basic SEP. SEP is a little phrase that you'll hear a lot. I didn't even know what it was, I've just googled it, and it is safety and emergency procedures. This will involve going through things like evacuations, ditching, decompressions, and fires. and so it won't be specific to any aircraft, but you'll spend a lot of time in a generic aircraft mock-up with a generic door, and you'll learn how to evacuate an aircraft opening a generic door. And then after that you move on to your aircraft conversion. You will be doing 3 aircraft conversions. You'll definitely do the small Airbus, so the A319, 20 and 21. You'll definitely do the Boeing 777, and then you'll either do the Boeing 747 or the Airbus A380. Each conversion will take about 2 or 3 days, and you'll be doing a tour of the aircraft. You'll be learning where all of the emergency equipment is on the aircraft. You'll be learning how to open the door. You'll be learning the configuration of the aircraft, some basic knowledge about the aircraft, and then at the end of the 2 or 3 days you'll do a test on that aircraft. And again, at the end of those 5 days of SEP, you'll be doing a test on that, as well as some scenarios. You might have to open the door, and then that means you've passed. Once you can prove that you can open the door in a normal situation, you can close the door, and you can open the door in an emergency situation. After you have done the small Airbus conversion, you will then do your buy on board training and your Club Europe customer service training. Buy on board, as you may have heard, is what British Airways introduced at the start of this year, and we now sell food and drink in economy on short haul flights. And you will also be trained how to work in Club Europe, so that's business class on short haul flights. So you'll be learning the service for that. After that, you will then do the 777 and the 747 or 380 conversion, and then you will do your World Traveller customer service, which is economy on long haul flights. The training will consist of a lot of classroom-based learning, practical learning, and online self-learning, and you'll be given homework essentially every day to do this online learning. And if it's obvious to the trainers that you haven't been doing it, then you'll be given a PMI, which I think stands for Performance Management Indicator. If you watched the British Airways documentary on BBC and you know all about the snapshots, this is essentially what a PMI is. They've just renamed it. If you get 3 PMIs, then you will be off the course, and I'm not sure if you'll be recoursed or you might just be off altogether. I didn't see anyone get a PMI, but I did have 5 people on my course that were recoursed because they were using each other's ID when they forgot theirs to get in and out of the building. So stay safe, kids, do not borrow someone else's ID. There are a few other odd days where you'll learn little bits and pieces, like how to use the Kestrel, which is the machine for taking in-flight retail orders on long haul flights. You'll learn how to use the iPad for the buy on board service. You'll be given, I think, a bit on like security down route, and you'll be taught how to do the bar paperwork. So for flights into America, you need to count all the bars and do all the bar paperwork, and then back into London you need to do the bar paperwork, not counting though, and just general stuff like that. Overall, I think you have 6 days with Sky People and then 19 days with British Airways. Obviously you get a few days off in between, so the whole course I think will last about 4 or 5 weeks, and then you'll have a couple of days off before your first flight. I had no days off, I was just wings day straight into my first flight, but I think these days they give you like 4 or 5 days of training, and then you get your wings, and then you'll have a little break, and then you'll go on your first flight. So there we go, that is the assessment day and the training process. If you have got any more questions about this subject, then please leave a comment below and I'll do my best to reply to you. I'll drop a comment back. If you've got any questions about any other topics, I know a lot of people have been asking about money. I'll be doing another video very soon about money and some other questions that were on my previous video. If I haven't replied to your previous comment, then it means I was saving it so I can talk about it properly in a video. I'm off on my next trip tomorrow and I'm bringing Mieke with me, so expect a video of that very soon. If you want to see what we're getting up to as it happens, then follow both of us on Instagram and check out our Instagram stories. Mieke is amazing at boomerangs, she is the boomerang queen, so drop her a follow and check out her story. Once again, thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed over the past few days. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for plenty more videos to come. Bye bye.